First of all, before I begin, if you can hear rain in the background pounding at my window, I apologize, nothing I can really do about that, but let's continue on with the video. So The Ancient Gods Part 2 released about a week ago now, maybe less than a week ago, and the second DLC came with an update for The Ancient Gods Part 1, so enemy placements were nerfed here and there, some enemies were removed, etc. We've gone over this in a previous video, but there have also been nerfs to the actual monsters and the way that they maneuver around the space and actually attack the player. So first things first, the Arachnotron fire rates and projectile speed is slower than before, and a lot of high level and even mid-tier players have noticed this, and yes, it is a bit slower, but hopefully they do fix it. Hopefully they do fix it for Nightmare and Ultra Violence players that want that extra challenge, but then maybe they can have the slower firing speed on the other difficulties, like Hurt Me Plenty or I'm Too Young to Die. That sounds like the perfect compromise, and I'm not sure if the Arachnotron fire rates is a mistake or not, but who knows? Maybe it'll get fixed, maybe not. It probably will because a lot of people have been complaining about it. id Software have probably got the message by now. But anyway, apart from the Arachnotron, the turrets can now be destroyed in a single cycle. So you can just delete the turrets right off the bat without them having to pop down and then back up again. You can just delete them, like, easy. Which I'm not really a fan of. They are kind of a pain in the ass to deal with, but that's kind of a point when they go up and down, so having that extra time to sort of destroy the turrets, it just kind of deflates the challenge of them, and they just become pushovers at the end of the day. But again, these Arachnotron and turret changes aren't that big of a deal to me, but obviously for more hardcore players that really play on Ultra Nightmare all of the time, and really notice this kind of stuff, it'll obviously be more of an issue to them. But I'm more of a casual Nightmare player, more of a mid-tier player, so I don't really care about their stuff as much as like the high tier players. So Arachnotron, that really is interesting because when I first got Doom Eternal, I was getting my ass kicked with the Arachnotron. And yeah, I initially thought that the Arachnotron fires way too quickly, but then you learn to adapt, you get more weapon mods, you get more weapons as a result of just playing the game, the Arachnotrons become a non-issue. But at the start of the game, man, they kicked everyone's ass. And that's because of the fast firing rates. And if I were to guess, that early new player learning curve is what id Software were concerned about with the Arachnotron, as he appears in Mission 1. So maybe they wanted to nerf him for that reason. The Blood Maykrs lower their shields for a longer period of time. Now this is a good change. I think the Blood Maykrs are such a pain in the fucking ass. So now that the Blood Maykrs have more of a window to be shot at and destroyed, I think this is a good thing. Because I think the Blood Maykrs before were a little too, not overpowered, but the window of opportunity to fire and kill them was just kind of annoying. And I just hate when you miss and they like slow your movement down. It's just annoying, and then they fire those pellets at you. I'm not a huge fan of the Blood Maykrs. I get why people like them. I'm just not a fan of them personally. They are a pain in the ass and they are a pressure unit in the game, but just having them lower their shield for just a small amount of time longer, it's a good change. It is a welcome change by me. But anyway, let's talk about the feature presentation of the video, and that is the Marauder. As when you falter the Marauder, he now has a sound effect and a blue stun visual. Now this blue stun visual is recycled from the Sentinel Hammer, and how if you use the Sentinel Hammer and you stun enemies, you have a yellow stun visual. You have a yellow stun falter visual, I guess. It almost looks like Tweety Bird, the stars, the rotating stars. That is now on the Marauder, and it doesn't matter if you falter him with the the super shotgun, it doesn't matter. Whatever you falter the Marauder with, he will now have this sort of cartoon sound effect and a blue stun visual. Now, at first, I was really annoyed by this. I mean, I defend Doom Eternal for being a cartoony game, and I like more of its sort of comic book-esque, you know, cartoon elements, but I just thought that at the time, the Marauder falter having a blue stun visual like Tweety, but I just thought it was a bit too much, and that's coming from a guy who likes the game being cartoony. I just thought that it was a bit too much, and it doesn't really help good players out because they know when the falter window is. And for newer players, I mean, it doesn't really help that much either because you can learn the Marauder falter, you know, animation and window pretty easily because none of the other monsters have this blue stun effect, so I don't know why the Marauder does it. It just seems inconsistent. But that's what I thought at the time, but now I've just gotten used to it. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's whatever. I just wish there was an option to turn it off because while I have gotten used to it, it is not ideal, and I just wish you can turn that sound effect off as well because that is kind of grating after a while. I mean, I get it for the Sentinel Hammer, you know, it's a new weapon with a brand new sound effect and a brand new visual, but to have it just normally on the Marauder and no other monster, it's just weird. Like, why would they just add it to the Marauder specifically? I don't know. I mean, I guess I need to ask Hugo himself or an id Software employee, but I just wish that there was an option. But again, I've gotten used to it at this point, but it is still a bit wacky, a bit cartoony, and you know, while I like cartoony Doom, it is a bit like too much, it is a bit too on the nose, and I don't get the specific purpose on why they included the blue stun visual. But again, it doesn't ruin the game or anything. I think most of these things will be fixed in a future patch for Doom Eternal, and I hope that most of these, like the Arachnotron fire rates, the turrets, the Blood Maykrs, they'll be applied depending on which difficulty you're on, which I think will be cool, and I think that's what they're going to do. I think they'll listen to the criticism. id Software are pretty good at that anyway, and hopefully maybe even the Marauder sound effect and blue stun visual, even that might be applied to the lower difficulties, and then once you get up to like Ultra Violence or Nightmare, then they take it off, or maybe it'll become an option. I just want there to be options, you know, the liberty to do whatever you want. That's very appealing to me, and I do like options in my video games, you know. But anyway, that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys for watching. What do you think of these enemy nerfs and changes? The Marauder doesn't really have any nerfs. I mean, he does falter, you know, very easily now. I think he like even falters to like a precision bolt. I think I've seen like a YouTube video of that, and I think that'll be addressed in the next patch along with everything else in this video. But that being said, what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. That's going to do it for me. Please make sure to rate, comment and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.